Hello and welcome everyone to the August 2nd. We're in August now. August 2nd, 2023 edition of the SIG ContribEx biweekly meeting. As usual, how is it August already? As usual, a reminder that we do operate under a code of conduct, which essentially says to be respectful of your fellow speakers and attendees and generally be excellent to each other. I put the notes doc in the chat. I think everyone should be able to see it, but I'll send it again just in case. Does anyone particularly want to take notes today?
I can take notes.
Thank
Cool.
you.
I appreciate it. I also will probably help with notes because I can't help myself. All right. Let's start off. Oh, yes. I always almost forget, but if there are any new folks on the call, we like to offer the opportunity for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why you're here. I don't think anyone on today is new, but I will open that opportunity for a minute anyway. Oh, yeah, I didn't say, but totally optional. Welcome to unmute and say hello or type in the chat. Don't think anyone will today. Cool. But if you would like to do so at any time, feel free. That being said, let's move into our main agenda. And our first item is events, which starts with the Contributor Summit. We don't have Nigel on today. I did attend the Contributor Summit meeting this week. Did anybody else attend? Anybody want to talk about anything Contributor Summit related?
And just seems to be going.
Yeah,
Things are moving forward. Yeah, I attended it. The good news is we are experimenting in a good way this time, which is we're going to open proposals way earlier than we have for any other Contributor Summit. We're not going to close them early. We're just going to open them really early, and we're going to see if that has any results in more people suggesting things. So
well, comparatively, we'll be closing them a little bit early because last time we closed them late. So
yes, that's true. Yes, we'll be closing them earlier than we did for Amsterdam because Amsterdam was a problem in terms of when we closed them and informed people. So, so we'll be closing them at the beginning of September, not September, beginning of October, in order to give people whose sessions were picked like more than 3 weeks notice.
Yeah.
And for people who think of things in that last month, that's what the unconference is for.
Nice.
Everything else is a lot of other stuff just hasn't happened yet, right? You know, the staff is not even searching for a venue for the social. We don't know. We're going to be at the Hyatt, if anybody didn't catch that part. But we have no idea what it looks like at this point. And well, I guess it's not ContribEx, it's steering matter. We're going to be sort of trying to rejigger the swag budget because we don't have money for some things, and I think we're buying more t-shirts than we actually need to buy. So
Common problem.
Well, it's just one of the things that we don't know how many people are likely to attend, right? Because we think more contributors are maybe going to Chicago. But because of the Chicago schedule, everything is piled up on Monday. So there's going to be more conflicts.
Aren't there less day zero events this year, though? Or there's time?
No, there's
out?
more. There's more than there were in Amsterdam.
Oh.
The CNCF event seems to have completely abandoned their attempt to consolidate the Colo events. And have accepted Colo events that are kind of in direct conflict with each other. So, and I don't know what's up with that. I haven't been able to talk to the chairs.
I know at least some of it is like essentially like GRPC, like people like companies like paying to ensure it's like a GRPC day and things like that there.
Yeah.
Okay, so the conflicting ones are purely sponsored ones, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they still did not necessarily have to accept those. The they didn't for Amsterdam.
They still did for Amsterdam. There was a couple. There was just a lot of people less proposing it.
Got it. Okay.
That makes sense.
The big thing that, like, if you want to provide feedback, this change in schedule was specifically at the request of the feedback given by the governing board.
Hmm.
So if you want to potentially see a change, bring it up with your GB rep. Essentially,
Well,
people didn't want to have to like spend 2 weekends potentially traveling. But I think the majority of people are going to be doing it anyway.
Right. I don't. That's weird. Okay.
Yeah. Well, wait. Doesn't
Doesn't it
the
end on
Kubernetes
Thursday this
project
year?
have? Doesn't the Kubernetes project have a GB rep?
Yeah, Christoph.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm getting the answer. I mean, because this is particularly a Kubernetes concern, right? Which is to say, hey, the impact on the contributor summit, right? I don't actually personally care that much about the rest of the colos.
Yeah.
But the impact on the contributor summit is noticeable again, and we need to talk about that. If the regular event was Tuesday through Friday and no regular colos were scheduled on Monday, then we could have the contributor summit on Monday potentially. But
And all the vendors could have their events on Monday. They would kind of split the CNCF stuff and the non-CNCF stuff, but now everybody's just going to do it on Monday.
I have a feeling that will be the general feedback after North America.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that was, again, centered around travel and not around the larger companies, wanting to do their own things. Because now there's going to be even more competition. Like if your company is doing something, like you're now competing with all the colos and the summit and the various other activities.
I dream of the day that OpenShift Commons is not on the same day as the contributor summit.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Either way, the best way to potentially change it is to basically talk to your GB rep and provide that feedback into.
Yeah. I mean,
what does GB stand for?
Governing board.
Yeah.
So for the Googlers, it is Anne, and she knows already.
Yep. Oh, I just realized that we're taking these notes in the wrong spot.
Again.
Yep.
Dadgummit.
Are we?
No,
Yep, we are.
Is it? Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, no, that is the right spot. This is after end meeting template. Meeting template is above there. This is right.
No. I meant we were taking it under welcome instead of under events.
That's all. Yeah.
So I just fixed that.
Thank you.
That's it. And we don't have any other events that I know of. If we have other events, somebody should raise it.
Yep, I think that's it. Any other questions?
But what about the ContribEx dance-off?
That is a good question. I believe you are the one organizing that. When is it going to be? Like,
unfortunately, it's conflicting with the contributor summit.
We haven't picked a social activity for the contributor celebration yet.
Dude, I would watch.
Sounds like Noah wants to volunteer.
Yeah, I would watch that.
If you want to organize a dance off, we can put that on the schedule.
There you go.
Yes, we'll definitely give it to one of the people who doesn't dance.
You make a joke, you get a job. No, it works here. We should take that in the notes. Contributor dance off ? All right, that's in there.
There we go.
Very good. All right. Any last questions, comments, concerns around the contributor summit before we move on?
Oh, one other thing is once we actually finish the ops handbook, we will actually have handbooks for every single role for the contributor summit, which will be nice.
Nice.
And on that topic, I spoke with Natalie yesterday, and expressed that historically I had done the majority of ops, if you look at KubeCons historically, and we really needed people other than me to contribute and not have the single point of view failure that we end up with occasionally.
Yep.
So more people will be contributing to that, just so it is known.
Good stuff. That'll be exciting. Always good to have handbooks, whether or not people look at them. All right, let's move on to mentoring. I see that you've got a few updates here.
Yeah. Anybody know how the group mentoring cohort for Customize is doing? I don't.
They just kicked off. The private channel was created for them. They invited all the mentees in there. I think Monday.
Okay. Okay. We're gonna have another LFX cycle again soon. I don't know if Kubernetes has any projects in it. I haven't organized anything. I also have it on my docket to actually get us organized for some outreach proposals, but I haven't started on that. So yeah, so that's what we've got for mentoring right now.
All right, mentoring things are happening. Another item for the contributor summit, right, Bob?
Yeah. We unfortunately, with how big Kubernetes is and all that, at this point, we've had several contributors pass almost every year for, I think, since 2000. And each time we have done a, small little remembrance thing at the summit. I don't necessarily think it requires a rule book, but we probably want to at least put something somewhere about it.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a good idea to me.
Yeah. For that matter, yeah, and for that matter, the summit team.
I've talked privately with Nigel about it.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, the thing is that we should actually put it out through the community to find out, because we know the very influential people who passed away, but we probably have other contributors who passed away that we don't necessarily know about. And we don't want to omit them.
Yeah, what has usually happened in the past is someone that knew them informs steering, and then steering sort of has their own
playbook. Yeah.
Okay. Does steering want to do this still?
Are you talking like at the summit or in general?
At the summit.
The one at the summit has not been done by steering. Well, it's sort of because I was on steering, or am on steering in the past, but it has been done by other non-steering members as well. Usually it's the person that knew them.
Okay, right. But what I'm saying is, now that you brought it up, I'm going to need to put out a request in the community to have people give us names. because and the question is, should those names be coming to the summit leads or should they be going to steering?
Realistically, I'd say both.
For the summit leads, it has typically been for highly active contributors that would be missed at the contributor social, as opposed to general losses from the community at large. We would potentially want to differentiate between those two.
Usually, like when
I don't think this is like a clear process or like a well-defined thing that we're doing. I think maybe the best thing that we could do for this would be to put something in the Contributor Summit repo about what has been done in the past. That way people in the future could decide if they want to follow precedent for any future situations.
Yeah, we have a lot of good examples.
And
But maybe not set forth
recognizing-
like a, this is how you do this.
Right.
I also think it's important to recognize that whoever's involved in this, if someone picks it up, it is something that's going to have a lot of emotional stress and emotional labor behind it. So saying, oh, and here's a process to follow doesn't really fall in line with that emotional outlet.
So like it's usually been done by someone that like knew the person or like, you know, people well.
Right.
And like it you know, it also gives them an opportunity to do that if they so want to.
Yeah, I'm just saying, so I'm going to bring this up with Nigel. I'm just saying as the assistant lead for this contributor summit, I'm not necessarily comfortable with making it exclusive to the people who have already been brought to our attention, if you follow me. Because among other things, I think there's a pretty substantial geographical bias in that. And you know, if we're doing something for the summit, and this will obviously be Nigel's final decision, then I would like to actually do a call in case there are people like, for example, a major contributor from India who passed away that I just don't know about.
Yep. That sounds like the plan. It'll be for the Contributor Summit leads to decide exactly what they want to do with that, but it is under consideration, which is good. Sounds good. We'll move on to the next thing in our agenda after mentoring. I don't think there's anything else there. Next item is contributor comms. Anyone here from that team today?
I was not in the meeting last week.
Oh yeah,
but
that's
I'm
true.
here.
It is me. One update that I wanted to share with everyone is that we had an issue with Buffer. We had to get increased funding because we added Mastodon. So we have both Twitter and Mastodon, or Zitter, or whatever people are calling that website, and and Mastodon. And so we had to change our billing for that, which we requested through the CNCF, and that got approved, but didn't actually get updated. So things got wonky with Buffer for a minute there, a very long minute, and it's fixed now.
Yay. Fix things are good.
We should probably check that the Zapier automation is still working. When I fixed it, it seemed to all be in the right places for like the team stuff, but we should probably check on that.
Yeah. Let me look.
So I have a question related to that. And
Yes.
It's sort of a hot take, hot topic question. At what point are we going to determine whether or not Twitter is still valuable? Do we have an idea in mind?
When it stops being an outlet to read a large amount of contributors.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
People
the
gotta get
purpose of
off the
having it.
platform. Yeah.
It is also like still where the LF still defaults. And while, you know, there are some members on Mastodon and Blue Sky like that now use it primarily, most of them still have Twitter, and they might not be posting there, but they're at least, still seeing stuff there.
So
Yeah.
really, it's we're going to follow the LF's lead.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
or we'll stop posting when the site becomes inoperable, which is
Right,
another
like-
possibility.
It's entirely possible. They're like, oh, no more buffer. Anything's possible at this point.
I'm actually kind of surprised that buffer still works, given how much they've screwed around with APIs. So
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we can also kind of keep an eye on like what kind of engagement our posts are generating. We honestly don't really keep great track of that, but maybe we should keep better track of that.
I don't know that I would.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would trust their engagement figures at this point.
I mean, like likes and comments, active engagements.
Yeah, like real engagement, not views.
Yeah.
The other thing, like a lot of our major stuff, it gets retweeted by the primary CNCF account, the Kubernetes.io account, like everything related to Docker Shim. Anytime we've had something like that, that has been the method to get it wide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whether or not that still works right now.
Yeah.
But
Are we doing anything organized using LinkedIn?
No. Not yet. It would be
Yeah,
nice, but I'm not sure how we would. I mean, we could just stand up.
Buffer
Yeah.
can do it.
Buffer can do it for
I mean-
sure. Yeah, it's just another account that you have to pay for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
for
I
what
mean, that'd
it's
be
worth,
nice.
We've done that with other projects,
Hmm.
and we've seen a lot of engagement on LinkedIn, particularly, post decline of Twitter. Although I will say that who you seem to primarily reach, who you reach more than anyone else on LinkedIn is students.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Particularly students who are about to graduate. So
Makes sense.
I
Makes
think
sense.
the incentive there should be obvious. But people are using LinkedIn's social media features more since Twitter started being a bad place.
I have also heard that.
Hmm. Yeah, no, like we've seen increases in LinkedIn stats.
Yeah,
Easily.
maybe we should consider that.
Yeah.
More money.
How much does Buffer cost per channel?
$60 a year, I think.
Oh, that's
Something like that. It's not bad.
One other thing to
we
potentially,
just had to increase LWKD actually, and that's just for button down.
Hmm.
one other thing to potentially consider, if we are hitting now LinkedIn and other places, I do believe the LF has their own tool that they use for all this, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
it might wind up being
It's Sprout Social is what they use. Yeah.
cheaper or better to like just sort of like integrate with what they're using, like if it makes sense.
Right, and it may not be cheaper. I don't know what Sprout Social's pricing is like, but I know that adding extra login seats to Hootsuite
Hmm.
is really expensive and
Yeah.
more than paying for all 3 channels on Buffer.
Interesting note. These are things we should look into.
Yeah.
Very
Because
good.
for one thing, the more commercial tools than Buffer, add a lot of functionality in the way of tracking, and response and landing pages and everything else that we wouldn't use, but you pay for it anyway.
Right.
Good notes. Excellent discussion. One other thing in contributor comms that I want to mention is we were working on putting together some materials for the SIG Spotlight video that will go in the keynotes for KubeCon. At this point, it's like a week away. So I have sent that over to the leads to decide exactly who's going to be on that video and like finalize what's going to be in it and all of that kind of stuff. Figure that's relevant to share in this meeting. I'll put a note about that in. And SIG Spotlight, keynote, video, info to minutes for finalization.
Okay,
I didn't know how to word that, so I wanted to attempt it.
it's fine.
Cool. Any other comms things?
I just checked Zapier. It's all looking good.
Very good. Excellent. We have several SIG spotlights
Wait.
going on.
When does the video due
Contributors there
again?
still doing well. I think it's August 10th.
The 10th,
Yep.
yeah.
Sounds right.
The
Okay.
videos and slides are due. There's a form you submit to.
Yeah,
So we've
just
got,
'cause
like,
I'm in charge of the one for ETCD, so I need to actually get on that.
Yeah.
We're theoretically becoming a Kate Sig. There you go.
Yeah. Although I think there's still some discussion about what that actually means. The
Wait, etcd is moving under Kubernetes?
mhm.
Oh, okay.
Mostly they want the infrastructure because there's a lot of stuff like testing infrastructure that
Yeah, that
has
makes
to be
sense.
maintained by the etcd maintainers
Yeah.
themselves without any help, and there aren't enough maintainers.
Sense.
Maybe being part of Kubernetes could help with that. Kind of excited to see where that goes.
Yeah.
So I would
same.
love to see more folks working on etcd. I have considered it many times myself, but I get myself into enough trouble.
Actually, honestly, like everybody saw the whole emergency thing, the declaration by Merrick, etc. etcd is actually in a lot better shape now.
Huh.
On part of what was going on with the project is as long as Sam and Gyoho were in charge of it, they did everything and they didn't ask for help.
Oh, rough.
And there's been etcd's had a bunch of minor contributors for a while, and it turns out that if you just ask them, a bunch of those minor contributors are willing to do more. And it's taken a while to spin that up, but things are going a lot better now.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The other, like, one of the big things that'll be a win is just being able to use owners, because
Mhm.
then you can, you might trust them to this little area here, and again, it's just like a growth path.
So
Good to hear. Love hearing about contributor growth. Projects getting healthier. All right. Any other? I think we're probably good on comms. So let's move on to contributor documentation. Seems like there might be some updates there, actually. Anything there?
Well, Craig, you're on the call.
Oh yeah.
Well, I got sidetracked for the first half of this year.
It
As
happens.
we all did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I finally picked back up trying to do the configuration for Kubernetes for enabling dev containers to make it easier to contribute and set up dev environments very quickly. And I shared with Chris Kesslin and Bob my essentially POC, and I'm now finally actually really getting ready to make a PR. The next one of the attributes of it is that if you just sort of do the naive configuration, it takes about 7 minutes to build the configuration, which is a lot less time than it takes people to set up their local dev environments. But to work around that, essentially what I want to do is set up a proud job to build a container image that does like 90% of that stuff ahead of time, so that when people work in the repository, it'll just pull that container image and do the last mile bit of setup for you at the time you're creating your session, whether you're using it locally or in code spaces. And so that's my next hurdle, is learning Prow and how to set up container builds. I'm trying to figure out whether I do it in one PR or two PR. I imagine with Prowl separate PRs, so I'll need to
Yeah. So
do some staging.
so the container image is going to be built with Prowl, and then it's going to go into GHCR, and then somehow dev containers will be able to pull that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. One thing I would love to ask you is, after you do this, if you could actually write a blog post for the contributor blog on how you did it, because the other projects are going to be interested in replicating.
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot to learn, and then I will write it up. The awesome thing is I'm also creating a new pattern for dev containers that around this container image build because it speeds things up in general. And so we want it to be a kind of general pattern. So I've got two areas of innovation to try to write up simultaneously, which is lots of fun.
So comms can help you, right? Like,
yeah,
we
mention it every meeting to make sure that we're ready for it whenever it's ready.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry it's been on hold.
Oh, you're fine. You're totally fine, right? Like,
we mention it every meeting as like someday we'll do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you could hand us an outline and we could write it for you, and then you could, there's a lot of ways we can handle this, so it's not as big of a burden on you.
I'm not so worried about that, honestly. I'm more worried about figuring
Getting
out
it done.
what I need to do in Prowl.
Yeah.
So I think on Bob's recommendation, I'm going to go talk to Kate's Infra, and maybe I'll get Dims to, coach me.
Yeah,
Dims, Arnaud, any of them. Yeah. Christoph. Yeah.
It'll probably be like what we do with the other images for like image promotion. The nice thing again is like that means it will like automatically be bumped with every Kubernetes release. It will be able to stay in lockstep with the Go version and all the dependencies that are being like baked into it. Because like there's some other stuff that will essentially like auto bump things. It should just like theoretically make it easier to maintain long term.
Nice.
For those interested, there's the link to my fork where I'm messing around and getting everything working.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Where'd you put that link?
Oh, in the meeting
chat.
chat. I can put it in the notes.
Much appreciated.
Thank you all.
In the latest Zoom Rev, copying links has become really challenging. I don't know why.
Exciting stuff. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, it's awesome.
My pleasure. It's fun to finally work on it.
Awesome. So, any other contributor documentation items we want to talk about? I would assume that's probably about it.
I'm going to say, other than that, we haven't done anything about the contributor sites upgrade issue. But
that is not a bad thing to mention.
Crap, that's right. Well, we have a tech lead now.
Yeah, we have a new tech lead in contributor com. I don't know if we said that before. It's been
really
for a bit.
Yeah.
He is on.
Is he?
That would be the correct CJ. Hello. Yeah. But yeah, so he's very active about starting to learn things and exploring projects that he could do. And we'll probably do something about that at the contributor summit again as well, because last time at the contributor summit we had a little working session where folks got together and made a little bit of progress on that. So
the good news is I'll actually be at the contributor summit this time, I think. So one more Hugo person in the mix will be good.
Indeed. That is a good item to bring up. Any others on contributor documentation before we move on? Okay, next item is moderation and media. Nigel isn't on today, but does anyone? Oh, I see that there are some updates. Bob?
Yeah. I just wanted to bring this up as something I've talked with a few people in private. But essentially the Kubernetes contributors channel has gone in a way that doesn't serve its purpose. Essentially, it is people pop in there, will ask random questions related to Kubernetes, or people will pop in like, hey, I'm new, please give me an issue. And if you go look at the channel, it's literally just that sort of style message over and over and over again. Even with the, like, now when you join, it pops up saying like, hey, if you're interested in this, go here. If you're interested in this, go here. Or like, if you're interested in contributing, read these docs first before asking your question. That has not helped. And the big thing is our actual, contributors, our maintainers have largely left the channel or muted it. So it is not hitting our target audience. So what I think we should wind up doing is, like, we can rename the channel to Kubernetes new contributors or something like that, so that way people still have a place they can go to. And we create a new channel like Kubernetes maintainers or something like that. And that is specifically for essentially if you are actively contributing the project, like we can even add a little warning message when you join, like, hey, do not ask for issues. Like, this is, if you come here with like specific questions or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, don't ask to have an issue thrown at you.
Yeah. And basically then just like invite our known maintainers. Like we'll toss out like the chair and tech leads meeting. We can ask the leads themselves to bring it up in their meeting. Hey, please join this. Send something out to KDev. But like I at this point, I think we just need to kind of abandon that channel for messages towards our major contributor base.
And for
if
to communicate the change, something
Yep.
that we should think about how to do properly.
Yeah, this is actually something I wouldn't bother tweeting or anything like that, because we
No.
don't.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, no.
If only Slack had a functional API, we could consider having a channel that you had to be an org member to get into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, it'd be hard. People would have to basically somehow pass us their Slack ID,
right,
or like their email address to send them a specific invite to a maintainer channel. But that would also want to be yeah.
That about sums it up.
No, not worth attempting.
Yeah.
That is an important topic.
On the other hand, if we kept all that information in just one big YAML file, then
And everyone would love reading it, right?
I'll show myself out.
Funny enough, if you are in a user group, it is there in YAML.
Yeah.
Because we have the mapping of your GitHub handle to your actual like 8-digit Slack ID.
Yeah. We do?
Yes. Wow. It is intense.
Yeah, it's not fun.
I thought I was joking.
Not for the faint of heart. That's some YAML. A lot of it.
Any other questions, comments, concerns about renaming Kubernetes contributors channel in Slack?
I think if people don't have comments, it's just establishing a timeline.
Open issue, lazy consensus, off we go.
I don't think we need lazy consensus. It's just
Slack management, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. I think that sounds good.
And speaking as one of the other Slack admins, we're going to say, okay, I guess my real question is, how do we keep the sort of channel watering down from happening to Kubernetes maintainers? Because we can give people join messages and stuff, but
we boot the people that do that sort of stuff in there.
actual
Okay.
moderation of that. Like
Yeah,
make that a
go
rule
here.
of the channel.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can't do that here. And
Yeah. I mean, realistically, it's only going to work if the regular contributors who are in the channel report things.
I think
The,
they will be more open to it. That it's a lot less hopeless than the other channel that is just kind of
Yeah.
nonstop.
Okay.
What's funny is the chair and tech leads channel has sort of become that purpose. Like there's lots of people that are not chair or tech leads in there because that is the place where the people can actually talk to each other without a lot of other stuff.
Noise.
noise.
Yeah.
I think we have a plan to execute on. Questions, comments, concerns before we move on? Cool. All right, next item is GitHub management. Looks like there's one item there.
Yeah, just an update. You might have seen KDev. There was an email sent out regarding an incident regarding about Peribolos. Basically, the bot went rogue because of some configuration mishap. And you might see, if you are part of some teams on GitHub, you might have been removed from those teams. It's not happened on an extremely large scale. Luckily, we caught the issue early on and like stopped the bleeding. But in case it has happened to you, just like feel free to reach out on GitHub management and we'll re-add you back. For the time being, we've deployed a fix for now. So as soon as the next run of Peribolos kicks in, that should reconcile whatever was lost. And like just to make sure it doesn't happen in the future, by Monday or by Tuesday, we are going to do like a manual audit of the config files of teams that are in there to make sure that it's representing the desired state of the world. So once that is done, we'll take down whatever hotfix guardrails we had put into place yesterday. And then finally it should be closed. But yeah, this happened mainly because we added a feature in, and as part of that feature, because the config files on GitHub change very frequently, and there are quite a few merge conflicts that happen and this and that. So in the process of fixing them, a few configs were like got missed in the PR, because of which this happened. So this is one off. Peribolos as a tool itself is still working fine. But we should be good by early next week sometime.
Thank you, Mara, for your work on that. Any questions, comments, concerns about that?
No questions, but like seriously, thank you. You all have been like up way too late working on this.
Yeah.
Indeed. All right. Thank you so much. We will keep an eye on that. Let us know if there's any help that you need.
Yeah, thanks. Will do. Also, I just wanted to like call out Craig. I just ran the code spaces right now, and like I ran a bunch of unit tests. It hasn't been this fast in Catacoda as well. So this is like really, really good. I'm very excited for this to go through.
Yay.
Love
So
good
awesome.
feedback. Thank you. And when you find issues, I'm actually struggling to get all of the make verify tests to work perfectly every time. So if anybody wants to pair with me to help me, because I just don't know what's failing, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm happy
why.
to help. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm happy.
appreciate you, Mada. I'll reach out in Slack.
Yes. Okay. For elections, nominations are open for the Code of Conduct election, Code of Conduct Committee election. This is the first time that they're going to be having that using Electo, which is a change because in the past, Steering has not wanted to have the election in public, but this time they're trying that out. For the main steering election, and by the way, so the code of conduct election is happening before the steering election this time, because we want to avoid the problem that somebody gets elected to steering and then runs for code of conduct committee. However, we discovered that the information that you can't be on both is not actually clearly spelled out in our official documentation of the two groups. And so expect some PRs relatively soon to clean that up. The election timeline for the main steering election is now published. Nominations will open soon. We had some fun this last week where we had to debug an issue with the Electo container build. Between last year and this year, we've upgraded all of the upstream libraries for Electo because, security updates and that sort of thing. And it turned out there were problems with a couple of them. So, and if anybody knows somebody who is dying to put newly acquired test writing skills to work, I could really use somebody who is actively working on writing tests for Electo. Because we're doing our testing in production now. So, and that's elections.
So we need some comms out about the Code of Conduct Committee nominations being open, probably, right?
Given that they close on Friday, yes.
Whoa.
We need to do that. Oops.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's been stuff stuff has been posted to KDev, and I put stuff in LWKD,
Okay.
but
Those
it's
are
not
probably,
everywhere.
yeah, the main things.
Do
could
we
do it
want
Twitter.
this on social media?
I would
mean-
not say social media,
Yeah.
but like I would drop it in share and TL.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do we need another reminder email? Because we could do a KDev little reminder.
Yes.
Okay.
Because code freeze was
I'll
not
let you do that.
terribly long ago. And I know a bunch of people essentially that sucks people's time, and they just don't see comms around things.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. So that's not too terrible. And then would you like us to send a message out about looking for someone who'd be interested in helping with testing Electo? We could
Well, writing
throw out
tests.
a call for
testing
help.
it, but yes.
Yeah. Writing
Yeah, I
tests.
was trying to figure out where would be appropriate within Kubernetes to actually put out something about that. Let me work with you on that.
Cool.
It's just that as long as it's on my to-do list, it's going to stay on my to-do list, realistically.
Understandable.
I mean, I'm also looking at potentially trying to get an LFX or outreach intern or something.
That'd be lovely.
For either the tests or for the UI overhaul, both of which Electo needs. Because we have a bunch of minor issues in Electo that I'll end up fixing myself, but both of those things are big things, and I'll never find personal time for it.
One other thing, this is less I wouldn't necessarily say send this out in comms, but the people on the COCC don't need to be org members first. We've pulled in people in the past that have not been org members, but have previous COCC experience, and sort of like some knowledge of the space and all that is definitely required. But if they have previous experience in that space, it's okay.
Has anybody made any attempt to reach out to external communities where, people who spend a lot of time thinking about COCs hang out?
Not this year.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of wondering if we're going to end up pushing back the nomination deadline, depending.
We probably will.
Because I can reach out to the FOSSI, new community because we had a whole track on this sort of thing at Fosse, and so there's going to be some potential candidates there. But reaching out to them and saying, hey, if anybody's interested in this, the deadline is in 2 days, is not going to produce a lot of results.
Look, let's also start a thread with like steering and the code of conduct committee on it.
Okay.
And we do have 3 minutes left. Are we good on elections to be able to have
Yeah.
one last discussion item? Bob.
Okay. This is we can pump the discussion on this, but like the big thing is now verified that it doesn't matter the size of the group, you can export the list of people from Google Groups. Before, like you were like it only like export like the top 100 type thing. So we had to do it like automated, like pull everything before to like migrate KDev, for example. But that was the big blocker for us to move forward with getting everyone to shift over to Kubernetes.io managed groups. And for like before we ask everyone to start doing that, should do it with ContribEx first. The group and all that's created just need to decide a timeline. But we can do that out of band.
Any questions, comments, concerns about heading over to SIG ContribEx at Kubernetes.io?
Is there some what has to be coordinated?
Yeah.
That means that you can't just do it after this meeting.
Sending out comms that like, hey, like, and we have to update sigs.yaml. Basically, if people have shared things with the old list, they need to know to share them with the new list. I have shared all the ContribEx stuff that I know of already, anything that's on our shared drives. But if anyone else has shared docs with the list, that needs to change. So not anything huge, but should be like, hey, we're going to be pulling the trigger on this in a week. After such and such date and time, we will no longer be accepting emails on this list. Go over here.
You all were working on a guide for like all of the process steps on this, right?
Yeah,
Still working on that in tandem with doing it.
I have all the steps. I wanted to wait until we knew if everyone could export the list of members or not, to basically finish the next steps on that.
Cool.
It's also a great time for people just to remove everyone that has bouncing emails.
Sounds good. And we are at time. Any last questions, comments before I close out the meeting? At least turn off the recording. Cool. Thanks everyone for joining today, and we will see you next time or on Slack.
Thank you.